I'd like to welcome everybody to the 58th edition of the Long Coffee Break. My name is Jordan Weiss. I'm a sales engineer here at Long. Appreciate everybody taking some time. Today we're going to go over multifamily controls with Mike Lee from Specified Controls. Mike's joining us from the wonderful state of Indiana. And I'll go ahead and turn this over to him and we'll get started on this. Appreciate everybody showing up. Go ahead, Mike.
All righty. So I hope everyone's having a great day so far. I know it's a little early, a little bit earlier your way than it is mine, but let's go ahead and get started. So as Jordan mentioned, I'm with Specified Controls. Specified Controls was founded in 2012 as a brand or a division of a much larger company out of Indianapolis, Indiana, called Controlled Holdings. Controlled Holdings has been in business manufacturing controls for over 30 years now. And Specified Controls in particular fits the market that I always refer to as the gray area for controls between a thermostat and a full-blown DDC system. So we do that area that there's really not a clear-cut companies out there that are playing in. So we're in that realm. I myself, Mike Lee, general manager for Specified Controls. I've helped to found Specified Controls, been here from the beginning, and developed a lot of products through the years for Specified Controls as well. So we're going to jump right into multifamily controls and really talk about what's needed a lot of times in multifamily controls that might not be thought of or might not really occur to you until it comes to the point where you really need it. So first thing is, as far as applications go, we're talking about zoning of common areas and clubhouses, but also the living space as well, especially in townhomes. Talking about code required ventilation, so ASHRAE 62.2 and other local ventilation codes in terms of IAQ. Makeup air needs. Anytime we have large kitchen hoods, we got to make up that air. Retail zoning is also oftentimes a part of this because it is a multi-use facility. So maybe the first floor has restaurants or some kind of office space, and so zoning might be needed down there. And then, of course, thermostats obviously are a big part of any kind of controls, but rental property controls. So we have a facility that is going to be mostly used for rentals or for timeshare. Might be a situation where we need to put in some controls to make it more efficient, to save money on electricity, as one example. Of course, constant flow and balancing dampers as well are going to be necessary in any application that would involve, higher rise, like 4 or 5 story, things like that. And then gas detection. A lot of these multifamily projects that are out there are going to have a parking garage or some kind of parking facility that would need gas detection. So we'll get started here by jumping into zoning. And zoning is something that as more and more of these facilities are built, we're seeing more and more need or use or desire to have zoning in both the living space and in the clubhouse areas. So in particular, as you can see on the bottom left, I currently live in a townhome. I can tell you it is utter hell to live in a townhome that doesn't have zoning. It is awful. So you can see this little diagram down here on the bottom left. Too hot upstairs, pretty good on the middle floor, too cold downstairs. Very common. This morning in Indianapolis, it was 79 degrees outside. My top floor was 78, my middle floor was 71, and my bottom floor was 66. So it's a problem. It always should be zoned. You must zone a townhome or put 2 pieces of equipment. It's either choice, but obviously zoning is going to be a less expensive option. Apartments, very size dependent, depends on the apartment itself. It might make no sense whatsoever to zone a 2-bedroom apartment, but it certainly makes sense to zone a 4-bedroom apartment. Especially dependent upon the exposure that it has to the elements. So if there's more glass, if it takes up, more area, things like that, the direction it faces, things like that, all come into play with apartments. With condos, however, I would suggest that it is likely that you should zone those because with a condo, you're looking at an owner actually buying the property, and you need to make sure those buyers are happy, make sure that they are comfortable. And so it makes sense to zone a condo versus an apartment maybe. And then of course, clubhouses, least expensive way to have temperature control in any a clubhouse is to treat it like a residential home, because most of them are about that size. And that gives us the ability to put, two split systems as an example into it, or two heat pumps, and then say, hey, I'm going to zone out, 2 or 3 zones on this, or 2 or 3 zones on that. Makes it very simple. As far as zoning goes with specified controls, we have a lot of great options, but most importantly, we have what's called our ESP series of panels. ESP stands for electronic static pressure control, and that allows us to have no bypass whatsoever. So it really solves a lot of issues, saves space, a lot of space, because we don't need bypass duct or damper, saves labor because we're not setting up that bypass damper, and it saves power or electricity because we're more efficient. We're utilizing the air that's in the duct to address overheating, overcooling, and all that. And so we're making sure that we're working better with the equipment. So it's a great option. You can learn much more about that by visiting our website. As far as zoning and carrying that a little further, over here on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that this is just a simple layout. This is an engineer that we're good friends with that lays out a lot of our product. But they just simply take a simple air handler unit, and they zone it off with our simple zoning for multifamily situations. And so here I'm going to show you just a simple schedule. Here it is, 2 zones and a bypass. The new version of our product. This is an older spec, an older schedule, I mean. But the new version there would be no bypass damper there at all, and this would make it very simple and easy to set up. 2 or 3 zone system. As simple as it can be, and it saves on need for multiple pieces of equipment, and it makes it very, very simple for any contractor to be able to do this. Next, we'll talk about ventilation, and from a ventilation standpoint, what's important to recognize is that ASHRAE 62.2 is very clear. We have to bring in outside air. We have to do that to meet that requirement. And there is an actual formula to doing this. It's pretty straightforward. Basically boils down to the number of people in the space, which is calculated off of the bedrooms in a living space. There's a lot of options out there in the HVAC controls world. But what we're going to tell you is the best option you're going to have is a very simple little controller, and it's called a VCS, and it stands for Ventilation Control System. And the ventilation control system that we offer is everything you'd ever want in the ability to control the ventilation in and out of your living space. It gives you the ability to override. It gives you the ability to have various different means by which to bring on that ventilation. It works in coordination with not only the thermostat, but also with the equipment, so that we don't just run a fan because we feel like it. We actually use the equipment calls to use less electricity or use less power. So it's a very nice system. It works really well. The little joke here, the little benefit to this design, especially on the contracting and engineering side, is that it will pass inspection. It will provide a great option for meeting that 62.2, but there's an off switch, an on-off switch. It's a big black switch on there, and it allows us to turn off that ventilation if, for example, very, very hot outside, way too cold outside, way too humid outside. Let's just shut that off so we're not bringing that air in if we choose to do so. So that's a nice little feature to it that has been well received, let's say. And for those of you that have ever dealt with these, you understand what I'm talking about. CO2 on demand ventilation, very common, especially in common areas and in clubhouses as an example, because those aren't living spaces. Those are actually falling under more of the 62.1 requirement. And so you can see down here is a very common Honeywell, old CO2 monitor or CO2 sensor with a modulating actuator. We have the ability to provide a great product for that. We literally call it a CO2 dash whatever size damper you need. And we can provide that as a great simple product. As far as makeup air goes, the only thing I want to point out on that is kitchen hoods would require anytime over 400 CFM would require makeup air. We have several solutions for that, but it's something you should think about in the design or as a way to address the issue of that makeup air. We have multiple different options or ways to do that. Most commonly run just an outside air damper to the exhaust fan. As soon as the exhaust fan turns on in the hood, bring open that damper, we're making up that air. The other way to do this is with a simple damper we call an MUA, makeup air damper, and that is a damper with a pressure switch, and the pressure switch pickup goes into the exhaust duct, and the damper's over in the supply, or outside air duct, and it brings in that air. So there's lots of different ways to do this. Most important is you're going to have to make up that air, and it's something to think about. As far as flow and balancing goes, let's talk about balancing first over on the left-hand side there. We have several different options for this, but most importantly, what I want to point out is when you're in a situation where you have a hard ceiling, where you might need to adjust these, where you might need to make some kind of adjustment or tweak to it. We have remote balancing dampers that are cable or electronic. We just won a great award for the dealer design for our dealer design for the AHR News. So we're the top commercial product out there for our little product that you see there with the little black box in front of it. That's the adjuster. So not commonly going to be used in any living space, but maybe in a a clubhouse or common area. So great opportunity or great product there. And then on the right hand side, the balancing dampers, as the flow dampers. Of course, all these are all DES. Very common product that you're all aware of. We have a partnership with them. So the constant flow regulators give you a great opportunity, especially in a hotel or a high-rise building, to address that stack effect issue. Really a point to make with them is just that they now have new versions that are capable of much higher static, which has always been a little bit of a limiting factor with those flow regulators. So great opportunity there to address that stack effect in most facilities. One of the last things we'll talk about before we get to the gas detection things is rental controls. This is something that usually you're probably not thinking about. A lot of times this is owner driven. They want some controls in there just to address concerns about costs. And so we have different options that would allow for a great control piece. We have both auto shut off of units and fans and things with our Lodge Watch over there on your right hand side. And then we have remote monitoring and remote controls with universal interfaces over on the left hand side of those pictures. So on the right hand side, the Lodge Watch, you can see it's using a door switch, a magnetic door switch or window switch. And that is designed for, hey, they open the windows, they open the doors. Why would I allow the equipment to continue running? This will save money. And that's how that works. It's very simple. Something that's available more very commonly on the commercial side, heavy commercial side. This is designed for your residential situation. So it works great in condos, especially. The full-blown control of the units and full system aspect is, let's say that you have a building, you've got 300 condos, apartments, whatever they are, and you want to control all of them and be able to monitor, shut them down, if it's vacant, things like that. We can do all of that with one simple controller. I can control up to 400 devices, including thermostats, discharge air sensors, lights, fans, all that fun stuff. So a simple system, any any mechanical contractor can do with our system. We call it a specified comfort system. So that just gives you the opportunity to monitor, control, and it's wireless, so you don't have to run a bunch of comm wire all around. No comm buses necessary. Works out really well for that condo building, works really well for those apartments where they are near each other in terms of the buildings. Let's say apartments that have 20 in each building and there's 10 buildings. As long as that campus of buildings, they're all close to each other within about, let's say 100 feet of each other, 200 feet of each other, shouldn't be an issue to communicate at all. Last thing to talk about today is gas detection. Of course, a lot of these multifamily facilities are going to have parking garages. These parking garages are going to require, in most cases, not all, but most, they're going to require some kind of gas detection system, exhaust system with, large exhaust fans. A lot of these parking garages are also going to have jet fans or zoo fans or something like that. And we can control all of that. There's a lot of new options out there in terms of fans, and we have the ability to control all of those fans and also warn the public if there's an issue in terms of gas. So just know with specified controls, we help lay it out, we help design it, we help actually provide an actual wiring detail for every single job specific to that job. And then we pre-program the system for the contractor so it's plug and play. So the gas detection side of this, we make it very simple and very easy for everyone involved. And then this little side note over there on the right, is from a design standpoint or from a just a safety standpoint, hydrogen or H2 is not typically going to be code required, but keep in mind that any charging station, I don't care if it's car, golf cart, fork trucks, any battery that's charged is going to create hydrogen. Most cars now, less hydrogen because of the type of batteries, the lithium ion batteries, but golf carts using those liquid acid batteries are going to create a lot of hydrogen. And so hydrogen sensors might be needed. It might not be code required, but it could be considered an issue for the fire marshal, as an example. So just keep that in mind moving forward. Gas detection, something we do a lot of, and we're happy to help with. So that concludes our coffee break today. Thanks so much for joining us. Always remember to reach out to your Long sales engineers if you need any help whatsoever. And we'll turn it back over to Jordan.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. As always, reach out to your Long sales engineer. If you guys have any questions on the products, we would be more than happy to help you guys lay out a job or answer any questions that you guys have. As always, I appreciate everybody. Please join us next week for our 59th edition of the Long Coffee Break. It's crazy. We have 59 of these already. Leroy Willow is going to go over micro air dust collection systems. So it should be a good one. So appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.